So, Alexander Isak, let's talk about him. He's very much taking up all the headlines right now in the world of football and, of course, the transfer market as well. There have been rumours about him leaving, rumours about him going to Saudi Arabia, going to Liverpool, going somewhere else perhaps for the entire window. And this is a saga that I expect to rumble on for the rest of the transfer window, most likely. Now, we hadn't really heard that many developments. Liverpool reportedly tabling a bid, thinking about a bid, but they've just signed Ekitike. Will they still go in for him? I think they will, given this news, because he has reportedly told Newcastle that he wants to explore other options. A bit of a euphemism for basically, I want to leave. Or, if you're being optimistic maybe as a Newcastle fan, I want a pay rise, I want a new contract, I want to have the same kind of wage as what the top players in European football have, because that is what I am, that is what I am worth, and that is what he's probably worth to Newcastle at this point. Now, whether they can afford a wage like that in their kind of structure, that is debatable. I don't know. I would wager probably not, to be honest with you. I mean, if you're talking about someone who's on, £500,000 a week like Erling Haaland, can Newcastle afford that with the current PSR regulations? I'd be surprised. I'd be really surprised if they can, and it would probably hinder them in a sense to keep him, even if he is, of course, a striker that has scored, got like 35 goal involvements as it was last season, most of them being actual goals as well, so he is absolutely crucial. Now, again, these rumours did kind of flare up a bit after he was left out of the squad that got absolutely pummeled by Celtic the other day. But Eddie Howe said that he was going to 100% be in that Asian tour that they are going on at the moment, that he was only left out because of a little niggling injury, because his head wasn't really in it at the moment. He needs some time to rest and kind of think about things. And by the sounds of things, he has thought about them, and he is more than considering leaving the club. But let's have a look, guys. I've got an article here on the BBC Sport. I'll go through this and I'll give my thoughts on what was probably going to happen here, because another question a lot of people will have is, why would he want to leave Newcastle? They've just won a trophy. They're back in the Champions League. But Isak has really kind of inserted himself into the top of the very top when it comes to strikers in Europe. You think about him, right? He could start for pretty much almost any side in the world. You know, even Man City, put him on the wing or something, put him behind Erling Haaland, put him alongside him. Any team in the world would want Isak. He would walk into pretty much any side, in my opinion, bar none. But let's have a look at what's been said here, guys. Shout out to the BBC for covering this story. Alexander Isak wants to explore his options for a move away from Newcastle this summer after missing their pre-season tour of Asia. The club has selected a 30-man squad, but said the Sweden striker misses out with a minor thigh injury. It is understood that some of Europe's top clubs have been aware Isak has been looking to take the next step in his career, most notably away from Newcastle in this case. A source told the BBC Sport Liverpool are interested in the 25-year-old despite signing Eintracht Frankfurt striker Ugo Ekitike for an initial £69 million. Nice. Now, a lot of people again will be asking, well, how the hell can Liverpool afford that? Well, they can. They barely spent anything last summer. You look at Chelsea's spending that they are going through right now, and I think Chelsea probably spent more than what Liverpool have during this summer, and that is despite spending billions in the last few windows. Liverpool have barely spent anything. And if they end up selling Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich, like has been heavily rumoured, then they will 100% have the fees to be able to do that with how the accounting works for PSR. On Saturday, Newcastle manager Eddie Howe said Isak would absolutely be part of the squad for the games in Singapore and South Korea. But evidently, he is not. Isak scored 27 goals in 42 appearances in all competitions for Newcastle last season. He was left out of Saturday's 4-0 defeat at Celtic in the first of their pre-season fixtures. Newcastle have maintained Isak is not for sale, and speaking at the weekend, Howe said he was confident the player will be at the club at the start of the season. Yeah, on the opposite side when they're playing against Liverpool maybe. But in all seriousness, this has very much developed a lot since then. He said, and I quote, "It's difficult for me to give 100% clarity on any player. Alex is happy at Newcastle. He loves the players he plays with, the staff, the team, and I've never had any issue with him." Newcastle had a £70 million bid rejected for Ekitike, while they have an interest in Brentford forward Johan Wissa. Meanwhile, Newcastle defender Lewis Hall, who has not featured so far since February with a foot injury, has been included in their tour squad. So clearly there was room for him if he wanted to be there. And of course, a Geordie legend Alan Shearer has had his own say on this, claiming that the injury claim from Newcastle is, quote, ridiculous. The former England striker, who scored a record 206 goals for the Tyneside club, believes they should have been open about the situation situation. It's ridiculous what Newcastle put out this morning saying he wasn't on the trip because of a slight thigh injury, said Shearer. If they thought people wouldn't see through that, it was disappointing. They should have just told the truth straight away. I understand it's a very difficult situation for them, but it is what it is. Eddie Howe has to use all his persuasive powers to do what he can do to try and make him stay at least one more year. If that can't happen, then it is what it is. You have to get the very best deal for the football club, and if someone is prepared to pay north of £150 million, and if he really wants to go, you can't step in his way. And it just goes into some of the financials around it and stuff. But basically right now, guys, according to the rumours that I've seen in the last couple of days about this, it really does seem it's going to be Liverpool. Al Hilal over in Saudi Arabia, they are reportedly tabling a bit of £130 million, but I'd be shocked if he goes there at this stage in his career. He's, coming into the peak time of his career right now, and to effectively go to Saudi Arabia like that, I don't see it with him. I would see it as a step down. Yeah, financially a step up for sure, but he's not struggling for money, is he? And it's not just about the money, it's about the prestige of things as well, I'm sure. And for me, it's going to be one or two things that happens when it comes to this. It's either going to be he goes to Liverpool for £150 million if that bid does indeed come in, or he stays at Newcastle with a new deal. Because at the end of the day, if Isak is basically saying that, look, I'm not being paid enough compared to my peers here, I am a top Premier League striker and I've proven this over the last few years, and he is absolutely crucial to that club. Reportedly, this is all relative at the end of the day, I would very much accept a wage like this per year, let alone per week, but he is reportedly on around £120,000 per week at Newcastle, which is 80 grand less than Anthony is on at Manchester United. So you start to see why he probably wants a pay rise, and Liverpool will be more than accommodating with that. I'm sure they could give him a wage of 300 grand a week, 250 grand a week, double what he is on, at least at the moment. But yeah, Liverpool fans, Newcastle fans, get in the comments. Let me know what you think about this one. Is Isak going to stay? Is he going to go? Do Liverpool need him? Would it very much be a cheat code, effectively, at that point to defend the Premier League title? Because that forward line, Salah, Isak, Wirtz, that is absolutely terrifying. Imagine coming up against that every week. That almost seems unfair at that point. That is genuinely one of the best front threes we have ever seen in the Premier League. I'm not going to say ever full stop. Neymar, Messi, Suarez back in the MSN back in the day at Barcelona. I'd say that's probably better, to be honest. But in the Premier League, name me a better front three than that. I'd struggle. I'd really, really struggle. Even the best teams of all time in the Prem, I don't think they've had a front three like that ever. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. Listen, have a fantastic day over in the world today, guys. See you very soon.